Hi everyone and welcome back to the George Collection. I'm Rachel Rightside Blonde. Well, we've made it to episode 100 of the George Collection. And because I was so excited, I found these lovely powder blue balloons. I was looking for one that had 100 on it, you know, like a happy birthday in case someone turned 100. And apparently they don't go up that high anymore. She said they used to, but now they ran out. Just a friendly side note, don't joke about declining life expectancy with the Party City staff. They do not appreciate it. Just a friendly tip. Second of all, I also found this really cool party popper in the shape of a champagne bottle. This is not real champagne, okay? It's a party popper. You're supposed to twist the bottom and then like confetti pops out. It seemed like a really good idea in the store, and now that I have it in my hands and I have to do it, it's actually kind of terrifying. So we're gonna do this together, okay? This is all for George Collection, episode 100. How to use pierce foil at top of popper. Hold popper firmly upright with both hands. Twist bottom clockwise. Okay. 1, I can do this. I can do this. Okay. 2, I can do this. I can do this. Let's do this, okay? 3. That wasn't so bad, okay? And it didn't make that big of a mess, so that was fun. That was fun. See, I was all worked up over nothing. I was silly, okay? Let's get on to episode 100. So John Kennedy loved lists. That's why he had the book, the George Book of Political Lists, and he also had the book of 250 Ways to Make America Better. I have both of these books. So I thought I would do my own list for episode 100 of my top 10 favorite George magazine covers, okay? And this could be for many reasons. It could be because of the image on the cover, what it symbolizes, the articles within, or the impact that I thought it made. Lots of different reasons why I picked these, but I'm gonna start with number 10, and I'm gonna go all the way to my number 1 favorite George magazine cover. Can you guess which one it is? Take a guess which one it is. I'll give you a couple seconds. Okay, let's get into it. Starting with number 10. Or is it this? I don't know. Number 10, Drew Barrymore cover that says, "Happy birthday, Mr. President." I chose this cover for number 10 because, first of all, Drew Barrymore's beautiful on the cover. The second of all, I think it shows John Kennedy's courage to make light of or confront the situation with Marilyn Monroe and his father. Perhaps this was John's way of getting people to look at this event through the lens of history instead of judgment. So people eventually will take off the glasses of judgment and scandal and taboo, and they'll put on the lens of history. It's just something that happened in our history, and it's something that we can remember. So maybe this was one of his ways of getting Americans to shift from judgment or taboo to, it's just a historical event. Who knows? Either way, it's a beautiful cover, and it was my number 10 choice. Coming in at number 9, the April 1997 cover. This is the only issue that features a dog. That's my one complaint with George magazine, is that there weren't many dogs. This was the only dog. There should have been more dogs. That's my only complaint. But what I love about this cover is that it says, "Can America be saved?" And that is a phrase that we hear often these days. So number 1, dog, instant top 10. You put a dog on the cover, instant top 10. But second, can America be saved? Is there a more powerful phrase right now in history? I don't think so. So that is why this is my number 9 choice. Number 8, the August 1999 issue with Ben Stiller on the cover. This is a very peculiar, that's hard to say, peculiar cover because it has Ben Stiller on the cover. It's called Political Humor Issue. He's sharpening a pencil inside of a Bill Clinton pencil sharpener. Doesn't seem like a big issue until you take a 30,000-foot view of the situation that was happening around this time and what happened in July of 1999 and the issue just after that. Now, in magazine publication, you have to think ahead. So this was already in the works prior to JFK Jr.'s plane crash. This was probably done maybe a month or 2 months in advance. So this was well planned while John was around. And I just find it so interesting that it's a humor issue and he's sharpening up using a Bill Clinton pencil sharpener. It's just a little odd, don't you think? And not to mention, Ben Stiller's wearing a red tie on this cover. I know someone else who likes to wear a red tie a lot. This is my number 8 cover. Number 7 is the October 1997 Spy issue. This thing is chock full of bombs, the good kind of bombs, where you look in here and you read stuff and you're like, wow, I can't believe that he had the courage to put this in his political magazine. On the cover of this second anniversary issue, it talks about the CIA secrets and lies, and if you open it up, it talks about the CIA 50 years of success, scandals, and sabotage. And I know I've covered that in the past. It's just been really interesting to read about the CIA, and it's also very interesting that John Kennedy chose all of that kind of information for his second anniversary issue, and for those reasons, I chose this issue as my number 7. Number 6 is the first anniversary issue with Richard Nixon on the cover. The reason I chose this one is because to put Richard Nixon on your first anniversary issue, when you are the son of a president, everybody knows who you are. You're clearly born in a political family. You know what you're talking about politically. And then you put Richard Nixon on the cover, who was embroiled in one of the biggest political scandals ever, on the cover of your first anniversary issue. I always wondered why. And I found my answer. And you'll have to go back and watch that episode because it goes into detail about Richard Nixon and its ties to the CIA and all kinds of other things. And the stigma that surrounds Richard Nixon or once surrounded him maybe won't be there. I really like the pink and the orange. The black and the white is very drab, but then he adds pink and orange to the cover. And speaking of Richard Nixon, if you haven't watched episode 99 talking about Bob Woodward, you should go back and watch that one too. Number 5 features the article that I just told you to go watch, the Bob Woodward article, Bob Woodward's Big Secret. But what I found really interesting is that on the cover it talks about Washington's top 10 media hounds, and it talks about Bob Woodward, and then it shows Demi Moore acting as a puppeteer, puppeting George Washington. You've got the Washington Monument in the background, and it's just so symbolic of Washington that there is a president being puppeted by this greater power. Now, here it's Demi Moore in stripes, but we know that there's other people that are puppeting our president as we speak. So I chose this issue because of the articles inside of it, but I just love the symbolism of this cover art. Somebody puppeting the president. It says it all right there. Number 4, JFK himself, Who Will Make Us Proud Again? Another black and white cover with a red George in gematria, red as JFK. But this was from August of 2000, so this was after JFK Jr. was no longer part of the magazine. But I still love how it says, Who Will Make Us Proud Again? Because that leads me into my number 3 favorite cover of George, which is none other than Donald J. Trump. This is also after JFK Jr. was no longer involved in the magazine, March 2000. There were a lot of nuggets inside of his article talking about who needs the White House when you have Mar-a-Lago. And also, the most cool thing about this issue is that out of all of the issues of George, it fell on number 47. And as you guys know, I'm very partial to the number 47, but now I have another reason to be loving the number 47 because I think Donald Trump is going to be number 47. We can all hope and pray. My second favorite cover of George is one that I think most people are familiar with. This is from February 1997. And this one, I think a lot of people know what's inside of it as well, the content. Not only is the cover really cool and futuristic, but it talks about the year 2020 and the lung-attacking virus. It also talks about Bill Gates and how he funds population control. It talks about Social Security and what we should do with that. A lot of really interesting things. And there's a question on the cover I hope that we find out soon, and that is, Indictment Day, will Hillary get busted? Just a question I feel like we deserve an answer to. So my number 2 favorite cover is The Survival Guide to the Future from February of 1997. We're down to number 1. Can you guess which cover it is based on the ones I've already covered? I'll give you a hint. It's pretty iconic. It was a really difficult decision, but if you chose the inaugural issue, you'd be correct. And I chose this issue for a lot of reasons, many, many reasons, but the main one is that it's the most iconic cover. It's the inaugural issue. This is the one when people think George Magazine, they see Cindy Crawford dressed up as George Washington. But there's so many other reasons as well. Personally, this is the first one I found in the basement that started this whole journey off for me. But looking at the cover, the words that John Kennedy chose, the Tiffany blue box, and the powder blue wording on the contents page, John Perry Barlow's in this issue interviewing Newt Gingrich. Caleb Carr also wrote about the next American Revolution. But besides all of that, when you have a dream and it comes to fruition and you can hold it in your hands and open its pages and read its words, and you can see the product of all of your hard work suddenly in existence. I can't imagine what John and his team felt when they held this magazine in their hands for the first time. Probably sheer joy and excitement, maybe some relief, but just the joy of knowing they started something brand new and the potential the magazine had for the future. I'm sure they were just elated to have this first magazine out. There's no doubt John Kennedy Jr.'s magazines from the 1990s made waves. But I think the content from those magazines is still making waves today, and I hope you continue to watch the George Collection as I find that content. That does it for this episode of the George Collection. I have a mess to clean up. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.
George, which is a hoot of a magazine. I thought you were a lawyer.
I was.
What happened?
Well, we decided, actually taking a cue from folks like yourself and you around the 1992 election, that there was an opportunity here to change the definition of a political magazine. Certainly the way Americans were accessing information about politics and politicians was changing. Candidates were appearing on late-night talk shows, on talk radio, on sitcoms, and there was a kind of a leveling process, and while the rest of media clearly had caught up with that, we felt that political magazines per se hadn't.
Your mother was a hell of an editor at Doubleday.
That's what I hear.
Would she have liked George?
I think she would have.